friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction BNO 608. In that neighborhood, my brothers and sisters, as we proceed to give you what you need, it is another Friday. So y'all know who we're about to go back to. Adrian from Coffeehouse. Crime! Another Coffee Man Friday, y'all. And the title of the video is Cops Discover Mom's Horrific Secret. Now, the reason I don't like this title, Bean Team, is because it says mom's horrific secret. You know what I'm saying, man? That leads me to believe that whatever her horrific secret is, it got something to do with her child or her children, man. It sounds like she has done the most craziness to one of her kids or multiple of them, like I just said. I don't know, but we're about to see. But before we see, Bean Team, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you might need. Get what you need, please. Another Coffee Man Friday. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
With a concerning phone call made by a member of the public, New York authorities trawled through the city's winter-weary streets to the doorstep of the Peninsula Hotel. Once there, and accompanied by members of the hotel's staff, they ascended the hotel's many flights of stairs until they reached a lonely hotel room at the end of the corridor. With more than 2,000 pills in a room left in disarray, officers would find not one but two bodies, with one of them barely clinging on to life. And as it turns out, one of them was part of New York's wealthy elite. So, who did the officers find? What happened? Why was this case so controversial? And what made this story so heartbreaking and sad? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks, and welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at one of the saddest cases that I've ever come across. And honestly, I think this one will generate many discussions in the comments. But before we begin today, I'd like to thank Factor for sponsoring this video. Now, you may not think it, but being a content creator really can be
Coffee Man with his commercial early, y'all. He switched up his format a little bit. But just the image of seeing all those pills on that dresser, like it was like, whoa, what is going on here? But shout out to Factor, man. Shout out to the Coffee Man. Let's get past it. I'm gonna take back right here. Let's go.
Thank you. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of Gigi Jordan.
Get whatever you might need.
Hiya folks. Today, we're headed to the east coast of the United States and to one of the world's most recognizable cities. And after appearing so much on TV and in film, it comes as no surprise that I'm talking about New York. Many of the world's elite call this home. From bankers and CEOs, all the way through to famous artists and singers. You will find just about everything here. Michelin-star restaurants, grand theatres, and opulent hotels are dotted across the city. Of course, filling in the blanks around its many skyscrapers. I mean, no doubt, this realm of the rich is beautiful, bright, and boisterous. But amongst the so-called elite, maybe perhaps even more so, lies some of the world's darkest secrets too. And in February of 2010, within the walls of this luxury 5-star Peninsula hotel found along 5th Avenue, a terribly saddening story came to light. February the 5th, 2010. It was a winter's morning, with grey clouds swallowing the city. But for the staff at the Peninsula Hotel, the cold weather was the least of their concerns, as unfortunately, they'd just come across an outrageous discovery. Now, to first set the scene, prices begin at $1,400 a night here, with a spa, fitness center, and indoor heated pool to keep you nice and cozy.
$1,400 a night? That bitch better goddamn make my food and bring it to me. And I ain't talking about room for service. I'm talking about an AI robot in the room. You know what I'm saying, man? $1,400 a damn night? That is crazy.
The place is bougie to say the least. So, when staff received a phone call from a concerned relative and were asked to conduct a welfare check on one of their guests, of course they gladly complied. Now, apparently, the guest had reportedly fallen silent in the recent hours during a very time-sensitive moment between the two. But what was even more odd is that even after knocking on the door, staff were met with silence. Not knowing what may be on the other side of the door, the staff contacted the authorities instead. Something seemed wrong here, and they felt that this was the safer option. Arriving just after midday, police officers also knocked on the front door, only to be met with silence. So, what do police do in this situation? They force entry, and upon entry into the room, they realized that the door had been crudely barricaded from the inside with a chair. After clearing the chair out the way, they looked up, and let me tell you, they were not prepared for what they would find on the other side. Lying on the bed was the body of a 10-year-old boy. He was unresponsive and felt cold to the touch. And right beside him on the floor was the unresponsive body of a middle-aged woman, surrounded by an array of pills and medicine bottles. However, unlike the child, she appeared to still be alive. Paramedics immediately got to work on the two, but tragically, it was not possible to save the young boy. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman, however, would make it to receive critical care at a nearby hospital. The red flags and warning signs were there from the outset, and detectives at the scene noted an aggressively large number of medication. This including Xanax, Prozac, Ambien, tranquilizers, antidepressants, and sleeping pills. And
tranquilizers? Like she just got all the depressants in the world. You know what I'm saying, man? But the thing I want to say, y'all, and I know I may be drawing conclusions because we ain't got all the details yet, but it seemed like just from the crime scene, the murder scene, the death scene, whatever you want to say, when the police went up in there and found, rest in peace to the little boy off the rip, found the little 10-year-old boy with the middle-aged lady laying on the floor. We already know she the mama. And it seems like the mama killed him in some type of way. I don't know if she drugged him. I don't know if she freaking suffocated him, strangled him, whatever. And then after she killed him, long story short, short story long, then she tried to drug herself and kill herself, but it ain't work. You know what I'm saying? That seemed like the story we going down right now. Either way, it's sad, man, because the little 10-year-old boy lost his life. But let's get more details.
In fact, after counting, there were more than 2,000 pills in total. In addition to this, they also noted pill crushers and dosing syringes in the room, with multiple syringes containing traces of drugs, vodka, and orange juice. At the mention of vodka, several bottles were found scattered across the room, all of which were finished to various stages. Now, obviously, for a one-night stay between a middle-aged mother and her young son, just one bottle would be a serious cause for concern. But the number found here was simply outrageous. And trust me here, this is not a simple case of a drugged-up mother going down and taking her son with her. Oh no, unfortunately, this is only the beginning of a terribly sad and twisted story. But even focusing on what we know so far, the scene was already highly disturbing. A young boy was dead, and a woman, presumed to be his mother, was on the brink of death. And to add to this, we have a barricaded door, and enough drugs and alcohol to fully stock a pharmacy and a pub. So, at face value, this looked like a classic and tragic case of murder-suicide.
Yeah.
But what really happened behind that door? And what led the two here in the first place? It wouldn't take long for the officers to identify the 8-year-old boy as Jude Mirror. Upon arrival, paramedics observed his body temperature to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius, which, as you may know, is well beyond livable temperatures. It was determined that, for his body to have cooled down this much, his heart must have stopped beating roughly 8 to 14 hours before being discovered, depending on ambient room temperature. The autopsy report also concluded that the boy's nose and throat were also moderately bruised, leading investigators to believe that some physical force must have been taken against him. Toxicology reports also revealed that he must have been forced a lethal amount of Xanax. In fact, it was estimated that it must have been 19 times higher than the safe dosage for an adult. In addition to this, he also had approximately 30 times the recommended dosage of Prozac and Ambien in his system. Safe to say, this poor young boy had absolutely no chance in fighting what was forced into his body. So the question is, how did Jude come into this state in the first place? Well, at this stage, we could only speculate and assume. The only person who could tell us for sure was his mother. And when officers and medical personnel realized who she was, let me tell you, they were deeply shocked. And that's because she was no one other than the wealthy New York socialite and medical entrepreneur Gigi Jordan. So, let's begin this story all the way back in 1960, when Gigi was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The young girl was raised in a supposedly stable middle-class family, and as a result, grew up a well-educated and well-adjusted child. To help with her comfortable upbringing, she would also achieve above-average school grades. Now, although her childhood at the forefront would seem to be that of your average middle-class family, unfortunately, her mother would suffer from long bouts of depression. This would eventually lead to several attempts on her own life, which, understandably, would affect Gigi's development as she grew from a child to a teenager. Sadly, her mother would not be the only member of the family to struggle with this mental turmoil, as her aunt also successfully attempted to take her own life when Gigi was only 12 years old. Even so, Gigi remained to study hard, and after graduating, she decided to take up nursing at a local hospital. Going on to work in the caretaking industry, she helped those in need from the comfort of their own homes, which, in her eyes, was the best place to treat those suffering from long-term disease and illness. And it would be during this time, working as a bedside nurse, that she would meet her first husband, that being Philadelphia-based businessman Raymond Miller Jr. Now, Ray had previously worked in the pharmaceutical industry in pharmacy dispensing medicines. However, his knowledge and talents were about to be taken far beyond this, all with the help of his new romantic partner and soon-to-be wife. And that's because, soon enough, they would decide to venture into the pharmaceutical business together. They founded a business that would help dispense medicine to patients living at home during their treatment. This idea would help set the pair up, and more specifically, especially Gigi, up for life. The venture was extraordinarily profitable after all, and I'm talking about tens of millions of dollars here.
Damn.
And Gigi, well, she owned half of everything. But sadly, the pair would separate shortly after creating this company, leaving Gigi a single woman once again. But of course, with her newfound fortune, she would never have to face financial hardship. She became somewhat of a New York socialite actually, living the high life amongst her very successful peers. So, over the next few years, Gigi continued to work on this business, gaining millions of dollars and many legal assets. It was during this time, while she and her ex-husband were getting divorced, that she would meet another man named Emil Chekhov. Emil was a yoga instructor from Belgium, and very soon, the two would fall madly in love. Now, this friendly and upbeat man really did sweep Gigi off her feet. In fact, he would entirely distract her from her stressful business and her divorce. It was during their relationship that Gigi would fall pregnant with his child, but with her still technically legally being married to Ray, her son would take his surname instead. And so,
You know what, yo? Because I'm just sitting right here listening, man, but I got to point this out. This one of those stories where Gigi don't really seem crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, she went through a little, I'm not going to even say a little trauma, because her mama and her auntie was suicidal, and her auntie actually carried it out. You know what I'm saying? So she went through some stuff as a child, but she didn't go through a lot. You know what I'm saying? Then she grow up, and long story short, story long, you become a multi-millionaire, my brothers and sisters. Now I see why freaking, when I was like $1,400 a night for a freaking hotel room, now I see why she was spending it, because she got it like that. Okay, everything seems all good for real, man. So why, long story short, short story long, did you do that to your child? Like, why? Like, I don't even, like, there was no warning signs, really. There was no red flags unless, the coffee man finna get into some red flags now because she in another relationship with another dude and ain't no telling how that's finna go. But I'm just saying, man, you a multi-freaking millionaire. Why in the freak? It ain't like you around here struggling, you depressed, or you been having these mental issues, or you was tortured and harassed or whatever as a child. Like, what the freak? It's just weird, man. These certain people who just live a good life and then they just snap and do crazy-ish anyway. All I'm going to say is, now we're going to go back to the video. All I'm going to say is there's a lot of people out here that wish they were multi-millionaires, include me. And I promise you, if I had multi-millions, I'm damn sure ain't doing no ish like she did it. And I ain't doing that even if I ain't got no money to my child. Let's go. Let's go.
On July the 13th, 2001, Jude Michael Mirror arrived. Now, not to be too superstitious here, but that was actually a Friday. And you know what some say about Friday the 13th? Even so, Gigi and Emil were over the moon, and Emil deeply loved his newborn son. So much so that he would even quit his job and take all of the parental duties, so that Gigi could carry on with her career. Interestingly enough, it is said that Gigi would peak at a net worth of $50 million US, which is an insanely large sum of money. Nevertheless, I can't say I'm surprised, to be honest, because that is American healthcare for you. With an industry swimming in funds, it is no wonder why so many involved become extraordinarily wealthy. You would think that Jude would thrive in such a situation as a child, but sadly, life had other plans for him, and that would not be the case. Raised by his mother and father, Jude was a well-loved son. However, the hands of fate would unfortunately take his idealized future out of their hands. And that's because, when Jude developed into his toddler years, it became quite evident that he was not learning the basics of speaking as fast as he typically should. Unfortunately, he could not get past the babbling stage of verbal development, while others his age were beginning to attempt simple sentences. It is also noted that Jude was a very moody baby and toddler, one who would complain in many situations that would otherwise be perfectly normal for a growing child. This included various noise levels, taking to solids and new foods, and changes in his environment. And so, recognizing that something was wrong, he was taken to a child psychologist to check on his development. And that is where his parents received the news that they were worried about receiving. Jude was diagnosed with a low-functioning form of autism. It was concluded that he may never speak, may never effectively emotionally regulate himself, and may not function well enough to attend school. And so, as a result, he would probably need to be in care for the rest of his life. Clearly devastated by the news, Gigi refused to back down on her son's misgivings. In fact, in the end, she would even quit her job to fully focus on supporting him full-time. Quite naturally, she wanted to fight the misfortune that her family had been dealt, and so she began to explore various alternative forms of treatment. Moving forward, she travelled around the country with her son, taking him to specialised therapists and even looking for a so-called cure. However, as all of us already know, autism is a condition that, unfortunately, has never effectively been treated. But throughout her studies and exploration, she would actually have some success. Eventually, Gigi learned how to communicate with Jude on a basic level through drawing, writing, and typing. She'd also invest in as much technology and hardware as she could find, basically anything that could help Jude. This included laptops, keyboards, phones, you name it, to be honest, pretty much anything she could get her hands on. She was absolutely ruthless in her support, but sadly, this pressure would eventually catch up not only with her, but Emil too. And sadly, the two would eventually decide to divorce, leaving Gigi all alone to raise Jude. Now, as far as anyone knew, this was the dynamic between Gigi and Jude right up to the tragic night in February of 2010. A discovery that would thoroughly shock not just her family, but all of her friends too. I mean, absolutely no one could believe it. In fact, her actions sounded like the total opposite of what they would expect from her. Well, the only person who could explain the rationale was Gigi herself, who now was unfortunately in urgent care at the hospital. But
that's what I want to hear now. I want to hear her explanation to why she did this ish.
Thankfully, or not, she would eventually stabilize and went on to fully recover. And as soon as she was fit enough to talk, well, she was forced to attend several interviews with officers. Gigi was eventually able to speak again, and the story that followed was far beyond the realms of believability, leaving not only officers, but the public shocked for many, many reasons. Authorities approached the situation with rather gentle caution here, as going by the crime scene and the circumstantial evidence alongside toxicology reports, the most likely scenario of this case was that Gigi had murdered her son and then attempted to take her own life. And so, upon questioning, she would vulnerably recount her actions. So, let's begin with the questions of when, where, and how, before we get to the all-important why. No surprise, but Gigi's story begins when she entered the Royal Peninsula Hotel with Jude. She recalled feeling numb, defeated, and like it was all over. According to her, there was nothing she could do, and everything felt so hopeless. Gigi had brought along copious amounts of drugs, including Xanax, Ambien, Prozac, and Vicodin. In addition to this were several bottles of vodka, crushers, and syringes. I mean, technically, she had enough to murder several people. Gigi and Jude then spent around 6 hours ordering room service, watching TV, and relaxing together. And then, after that, Gigi put her plan into motion. She concocted a mixture of crushed up Xanax and Ambien, mixed it with orange juice and vodka, and then force-fed it to Jude. She horrifyingly did this multiple times. Gigi would later claim that Jude never struggled while taking the drugs. However, results from the post-mortem reports would contradict the statement entirely. Of course, that being because the autopsy report determined there was bruising around his nostrils. He had likely passed out within 15 minutes of this terrible attack, leaving his mother alone in the hotel room. After consuming a lethal number of drugs and alcohol, she then scribbled a messy and incoherent note. After that, she then managed to contact a relative to say her final rambling goodbyes. And then, all of a sudden, she faded out of consciousness. Now, it is true that the messages sent to a relative shortly before falling unconscious very likely did save her life, but tragically, it was too little too late for her son. In hindsight, Gigi insisted that she planned to go out in a case of murder-suicide, but as we know, was only half successful, with the innocent of the two losing his life. Now, obviously, all of these statements beg one single question. Why? How could a mother who loved her son so much decide that the only alternative was for both of them to die? Well,
Before we even get to the why real quick, y'all, I just gotta say this. I don't believe that she even tried to kill herself for real. Or she didn't try hard enough. You know what I'm saying? All them goddamn pills you had in there. If you really wanted to kill yourself, you should have just took the bottle, opened it up, and just dumped them in your mouth like a bag of Skittles and made sure you swallowed every one of them. If you really wanted to kill yourself with the drugs, I don't think she really was. I don't know, y'all. Maybe she was, but I'm just saying she ain't tried hard enough. She made sure she killed her child. This is so effed up, man. This is so effed up. I'm peed off, y'all. Not even kind of. I'm peed off at this one. I'm gonna take it back just a little bit so we can really hear why she did this, because this is one of my major questions. Why?
Beg one single question. Why? How could a mother who loved her son so much decide that the only alternative was for both of them to die? Well, my short answer is that there is no excuse whatsoever. Her actions were just as stupid and short-sighted as they were disgusting and horrible. Now, I'll get back to what I think she should have done in a short while, but to be clear, she had so many healthy alternatives. Anyway, after lawyering up, her apparent motives would eventually come to light. but even those did not offer much consolation. Behind the spotlight, Gigi's world was crumbling. She claims that while all of this was happening, her first husband was legally punishing her for trying to inherit half of the business. In addition to this, he apparently had also been sending her death threats. Now, it is worth noting that these claims have been heavily refuted by Raymond, so it's up to you if you'd like to believe a murderer or not. Gigi—
Man, that ain't got nothing to do with your child. You and your ex-husband ain't got nothing to do with what you did to your child. You missed me with that whole bullshit.
also worried that if she were murdered or put behind bars, then her son would be left in the custody of his birth father, Emil, which apparently was a massive cause for concern. She claims that although Jude could not communicate clearly, he had apparently communicated simple words and gestures that would allude to some sexual abuse by his father. But once again, Emil strongly denies these claims. During her trial, Gigi testified that Jude had repeatedly screamed the words "Dad bad" to her while pointing towards his intimate parts. But professionals noted that Jude was not capable of the enunciation required to string those words together, let alone be able to scream them multiple times. Put quite simply, it was beyond his capabilities. She also claimed that Emil had forced her son to drink blood and be electrocuted. Really wacky stuff that makes her story even more challenging to believe. By the way, neither ex-husband had been in contact with Gigi for several months before her son's death, and both of them had relinquished their parental rights to Jude long before her actions. And not only was there no evidence to support these claims, but Jude, being severely autistic and unable to communicate, was the only one who could corroborate these crimes. And don't you think that it's kind of convenient for Gigi that she, and she alone, was able to communicate with him to these apparent coherent levels? Anyway,
right?
With her first husband supposedly threatening to kill her, leaving Jude in the custody of her second husband who apparently had abused him, Gigi panicked and saw no happy future for her son. And so, of course, with this victim mentality, she went on to claim that she was only going through with her plans out of a mother's love for her child. She would even go as far to claim that Jude was aware of the plan and had even asked her to help him in his death. Now, these claims are absolutely insane, but regardless, Gigi went ahead with this testimony. She also—
Did y'all hear what Coffee Man just said, man? Are you fucking kidding me? And I was gonna say it earlier, but I'm glad I saved it for now. I saved it for later because we heard even more of what I'm about to talk about, man. Just the fact that she lying on her dead son that she killed. Now she lying on him. You know what I'm saying, man? Painting him in a bad light in a sort of type of round way, or putting him under the bus, throwing him under the bus to try to make herself look good. This bitch just said that he went along with the plan. He little 10-year-old, autistic 10-year-old, I may add, that don't even know how to speak for real. But some kind of way he was able to talk to you and tell you that he was down to freaking die because man, I'm not, because this just sound crazy what the freak I'm saying. Everything just sound crazy. He told you that he wanted to die so because he don't see no way out and all this. Like, he had all that intellectual thinking and he autistic, but not even just he autistic. He 10 years freaking old. And not even that, man. You his damn mama. What kind of freaking man, why am I even entertaining and trying to even go into details about the most craziest ish ever? This lady is... She one of the ones, y'all. She needed one of the one, man. Lock her up for the rest of her life or put her ass on that death penalty chair. One or the other. Let's go.
Also claimed that she had tried to save him, stating, "I had a big surge of adrenaline. My heart started pounding. I grabbed him off the bed and put him on the floor. I was crying and started calling his name while performing CPR. I tilted his head back, grabbed his nose, gave him 2 breaths, then gave him 15 compressions. I did this 20 times. Now, apparently, these actions explain the bruising, but doctors would realize that their placement was more consistent with resistance against being force-fed. And so it appears that this was just another attempt to try and make her seem like a hero instead of a monster. Although her defense team would focus on turning her actions into acts of mercy, various articles of evidence would contradict this. For example, Gigi claimed that shortly before trying to take her own life, she'd sent more than $20 million worth of checks to various charities across the US. However, not one single charity would receive a check. And to add to this, there was no evidence to suggest that she donated to any of them at all. Unfortunately, there was more concerning information which would follow during her trial. Concerned friends testified that Gigi was convinced that there was a devil-worshipping cult who were out to violate her son. In fact, she would even go as far to hire a crime reporter who she found on TV to try and investigate. In the end, she believed that hired informants, a nurse, and even her ex-husband were all in to try and murder her and then send Jude into trafficking. I mean, unfortunately, all of this points towards a mother who had thoroughly lost the plot, and Gigi, she desperately needed help. But let me tell you, she was not the one we had to worry about. Meanwhile, the prosecution argued that Gigi had burned herself into the ground, and after failing to cure Jude, she sought another way to relieve herself of the burden. At her trial in October of 2014, an opening statement made by the prosecution said his fate was sealed. He did not die fast. One by one, his vital organs shut down. It didn't take minutes, it would have taken hours for Jude to die. Gigi showed no emotion while the prosecution described the crime scene, laying out her own actions against her son while everyone watched on in horror. It was determined by the prosecution that she had planned these actions out for days, and that this was no spit-of-the-moment murder. Her defense team claimed that of extreme emotional disturbance, which, by the way, is the polite way of saying that she totally lost her shit. They further claimed that her state of mind had been entirely transformed due to the stressful situation unfolding between her and her former partners. As we know—
Man, that don't give you the reason to freaking murder your son though, man, just cause you went through 2 divorces or whatever. Like, come on, man. And I do agree with the Coffee Man though, because it go all the way back to what I was saying earlier, being team. Like, this lady ain't grow up like just in a terrible freaking situation. And when she was an adult, she a multi-millionaire. Like, she was living a good life. And then it's just like he said, she just lost her shit out of nowhere. I don't know, man. That shit scare me in a way. Seriously, it scared me. Like, one day, am I just gonna go crazy around this mother? Like, seriously. Let's go. I'm animated on this one, man. This one got me.
No, there was never any evidence to back up these claims. Neither was there any evidence of a sex cult or a bloodthirsty nurse. It was noted that, although her beliefs were wholly incorrect and irrational, Gigi did seem to believe the situation to be her actual reality. Her defense team insisted that she committed the crime as a last act of love for her son, and that, within her emotional turmoil, she could see no alternative way out. And so, trying to find a sentence in the middle of both sides, in October of 2014, the courts accepted Gigi's claims and found her guilty of manslaughter, therefore rejecting the prosecution's call for a murder conviction. And although she could have faced up to 25 years in prison for her actions, in the end, she was given a reduced sentence of 18 years.
Man, come on, man. Come on, man. What the fuck are we doing, man? What the fuck are we doing, Bean Team? Somebody please help me. Somebody please explain to me why this lady can get away with murdering her 10-year-old child and all she get is 18 fucking years. Not only that, she don't even get the murder charge. She get manslaughter. Why? Because she lost her shit one day? She crazy? Man, I get so tired of this shit, man. I get so fucking put your kids away right now, because all the F words and S words, all that shit coming out my mouth right now, because this is bullshit, man. This is complete fucking bullshit. I didn't even see this one coming like this. I just knew there was gonna be an open and shut case. Open it up, you freaking drugged your son up until he died, close it back up, you go in the damn jail cell for the rest of your life. I thought that's where we was going. Are you 18 years? So let's just think about it like this real quick, Bean Team. Let's just think about it like this right now. She get out of 18 years. If her son was still alive, that means he would be 38. 38. 38, he not even freaking old at 38. You know what I'm saying? He died at 10, so 18 years later, he 38. That's not even old. That just shows you a short amount of time that she got to spend up in prison for what the freak she just did. Man, let's finish this up, man. A little headache coming on. Pissing me the fuck off. That is bullshit. Let's go, y'all. I'm calm down. Let's go.
Sentencing, she addressed the judge to say, "I will live with guilt for the rest of my life every day. Not one day goes by that I don't remember his beautiful face and his pain." In response, the judge said, "No one, and particularly no child, deserves the type of death that Jude Mirror suffered at the hands of you. The poisoning and killing of an 8-year-old boy is a premeditated act of child abuse." After 5 years, justice has finally been served with today's sentence of 18 years in state prison. It was ultimately believed that Gigi was fed up with caring for her son despite having all of the money needed to help him. Instead, she refused to accept the adjusted lifestyle that she would have to take for him. Moving forward, Gigi would ultimately spend the majority of her sentence at Rikers Island prison, and perhaps to no surprise at all, she attended multiple interviews behind bars where she painted a picture of sorrow and remorse. After a decade behind bars and in the year 2020, Gigi was granted bail after paying a $250,000 bond, where she was then ordered to remain in home confinement during her appeals for a new trial. However, 2 years later, on December the 30th, 2022, she was found dead in her Manhattan apartment. The cause of death was concluded to have been self-inflicted. It is also worth noting that, just hours before her death, the decision to release her on bail was reversed. That means that Gigi had essentially ended her life before she had to return to prison.
Man, I know this shit might sound fucked up, Bean Team, but maybe I'm just mad right now, man, and it may be the wrong thing, but I'm gonna let y'all know the emotions I'm feeling. I'm glad her ass died. Seriously, I'm just gonna go and put it out there. I'm glad she died too, goddammit. I don't care if you did it to yourself or whatever. Your ass know you was wrong for that shit, man. And you know that when the right sentences that they gave you. That was bullshit, man. I wish she would have fucking died when she first did it. I'm serious, man. I'm just letting my emotions out, y'all. Excuse, I may think about it later on. I may be wrong, but right now, at least I'm admitting that I'm emotional right now. And I'm gonna say what's on my goddamn mind and what's in my heart, man. Your ass did that to your fucking goddamn child and got away with it. Went to jail for a couple of years. Get back out, motherfucker. You need to die too. Let's finish it up.
With her sentence set to end in the year 2025, she only had 5 years left to serve at the point in time she ended her own life. Now, I do wish that I could say that maybe the reason she ended her life was due to the regret and guilt she felt after murdering her own son. But the truth is that with this happening just after she was set to go back into prison, well, that likely means that she simply couldn't handle being behind bars. So, what do I think about Gigi Jordan? Well, pitiful actions aside, I think that she was too impulsive and self-centered to stop, slow down, and think about others instead of herself. Raising a child with disabilities must come with its challenges. In fact, many parents claim that during their adjustment period, there are even feelings of grief. But saying that, most of them go on to have very special and rewarding relationships with their children. Children who have very fulfilling lives. Due to the sheer amount of money that Gigi had, she was in a fortunate position where she could give her son additional help. I mean, even if she stayed employed, she could hire a full-time caregiver to look after Jude, and then split her time between her son and her career. Now, by the way, I'm under no illusion that this would have been easy, but the only human thing to do here would be to step up and then deal with the cards you are dealt. But instead, she chose to discard him, not even through voluntary adoption, but by ending his own life. Now, there is evidence that, at least initially, she tried really hard to help her son, and we must remember that. But whether she lost herself in the process, or merely showed her own colours, we don't know. It is also worth highlighting that depression can tend to run in the family, though apparently this is still up for psychological debate. But we do know that her mother and her aunt suffered with depression quite severely, with one of them even ending their own life, and Gigi suffered from depression too. So, was she down from the beginning? Ultimately, 2 lives were taken by the same pair of hands. hands that were supposed to love, care, and protect unconditionally. Jude was unfortunate with the condition he was given at birth, but he was even more unfortunate to end up with Gigi for a mother. It is a very saddening end to such a young life being taken far before his time, harrowingly by the one person he should have been able to count on. Gigi lived the rest of her days riddled with guilt over the horrors that she had committed against her son, and ultimately, she would end up with the same fate. This is just a random side note, but Emil lost contact with both Gigi and his son several months after the divorce. He spent months trying to find them, even hiring a private investigator to help reconnect. And sadly, the next time he would see his son would be in a morgue. And with that said, I think I'll leave this sad story here today, folks. A sad story that comes with no justice at the end. Anyway, as always, please share your thoughts in the comments section down below, folks. I really do appreciate seeing them. Also, if you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon here, or alternatively, check out my social media here, most notably my Instagram. And by the way, there are many new exciting things coming, not just here, but also on my Instagram, so please do check that out. Thank you again to Factor for sponsoring this video. Go to factor75.com and use code Coffeehouse50 for 50% off your first box. And then you get 20% off your next month of orders too. Thank you so much for making it this far, folks, and thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. As always, I'll be back again very soon for another video. However, until that moment arrives, remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and as always, stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.
Yeah, my brothers and sisters, that is just a sad one. At the end of the day, that is just a sad, horrific, terrible freaking tragedy that happened, man. Like, seriously, man. Rest in peace to Jude, man. And one thing I want to say, because I was saying that he was 10 years old, but then I heard the Coffee Man when he was quoting the judge said 8-year-old. So am I wrong, y'all? Was he 8 or 10? It still don't freaking matter. 8, 10, tomato to freaking tomato. It's the same freaking thing, man. And now that I calmed down a little bit, maybe I was wrong when I was saying I wish she died too. I know I be getting all emotional, but I can't help it being team. I still do kind of feel like that, man, if I just gotta be honest, because it's like, dude, no, you don't get away with doing that and everything all right. You back free after spending a couple years in jail? Like, no, man. And the Coffee Man alluded to it, and I believe that more than I believe this. And what I'm talking about is he was alluding to the reason she probably ended up killing herself is because she didn't want to go back to freaking prison. Long story short, story long, it wasn't because of she felt so sad about what she did to him, because if she felt so sad about what she had did to him, she would have been killed herself a long time ago. Matter of fact, she would have been killed herself that same night that she killed him if she felt so bad about it. All them damn drugs in that room, like I said, she could have started popping them like Skittles and just jugging down water, making sure she just swallow all them mother if she really wanted to kill herself, man. Like, come on, man. It's just BS, y'all. And I will say, I can understand it. I can understand it, what a Coffee Man was talking about, that it's hard to raise mentally challenged children, autistic children. Yes, it's way harder, but that don't excuse it at all. I feel like if I was to have a child who was born with a disability, that would make me love them even more, even though I don't think it's a possibility to actually love your child more, but I'm just saying that would be even more reason for me to care even more about them. And it's like, if you look at her situation, she a multi-millionaire, man. She could have had people around the clock helping her care for this little son. Like, it ain't like she out here broke, y'all. That just go back to what I'm saying, that from the freaking beginning. Like, she grew up good. She went, yes, her mama and her auntie depression or whatever, but whatever, man. We all be depressed at some point in times, man. You was a multi-millionaire, man. You could have had people around the clock helping you raise your son. He could have never, even after you died, people could have been here to help him out in life. Like that ain't no excuse at all. Long story short story long, being team, I'ma calm down and I'ma go let y'all go, because I can keep on going now. I can keep on going about a lot more that we heard from this story, but that was good enough, man. That was freaking good enough. I digress. Before y'all leave though, just please though, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And come on back tomorrow for my second reaction live stream. And I think we gonna check out a video from Lazy Masquerade. But until then, my friends, also remember this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.